Good morning. I'm in the process of catching up on grading. So while I'm doing this, I want to fill you in on a couple things. One about my expectations for the reading assignment, and then one sort of an informal thing about how I manage this stuff, manage just the general grading miscellany. So let me start with that because that's easier. When I'm behind on grading, I give you guys leeway, right? So we all have things, and when my things prevent me from giving you fast feedback on stuff, I just err on the side of generosity. It's just faster and simpler and makes less work for everyone. So if you see that I am behind on grading, or if you get that impression because you submitted something and you're not seeing any grade post on it, that's a good indication that now is the time to try and catch up on other stuff. Now, this is for the Blackboard end of things. MindTap, the grading's all automated. But if you were, say, behind a week and you saw that the previous 2 weeks' reading assignments hadn't been graded yet, that's a really good indication that you should try to catch up, because I'm going to accept late stuff if I'm late in grading. Now, the point about what I'm looking for with these assignments. The general thing is I want to see you thinking about this stuff. So the summary, I basically want to see in the summary paragraph some indication that you actually did the reading. And then in the response, I want to see some indication that you were thinking about the reading. Right? So that's sort of the bare minimum. This example right here, I'm not going to share the name of the student, but the student did an excellent job and kind of went a little bit further than I necessarily am looking for. But that's fine, right? Sometimes you'll have a week where you got a lot to talk about. Some weeks you'll have much less to talk about. But this is about 50% more than I'd expect out of a pretty good response. Now, one thing that this submission is doing that I don't want to see is you're splitting the two readings, in this case the Iowa car crop and the economics of a POW camp. Really what I want you to do with this is just roll the two together and think about it as, say, one long reading with two authors, right? Look for the unifying themes. Look at why I gave you those two things as a bundle, and then summarize and respond to it like that. That said, excellent job for this student here. That's totally fine if you do want to split that apart, but I am looking for you to kind of integrate it together. And finally, one last thing to kind of keep in the back of your head while you're doing this. Think of this kind of like, think of sort of two things while you're working on this. Think of what you would do if your boss said, hey, read these things for me and tell me what I should think about it. Right? So use this as practice in summarizing information for someone who you want to impress, right? Someone who you need to keep impressing to keep paying your bills. And another thing you might think of, this is sort of a holdover from when I used to use these reading assignments as a discussion assignment, but it's still a worthwhile thing to kind of keep in the back of your head, is think of it like you're at a cocktail party. So you're talking to smart people and you're trying to sound fancy and impressive, but mostly you're trying to have a fun conversation and get something interesting out of this. So you say, hey, I read this thing, blah, blah, blah. You give the main points without getting boring and explain why it's important and interesting, right? Really focus on the interesting. Right? Think about this as a chance not just to do work, but to try and pull interesting stuff out of an interesting field, which is what economics is if you give it a chance. All right, so that's said. With these reading assignments, you've probably already seen the example I put up in Blackboard. Again, I just want to see you're reading the stuff and you're thinking about the stuff. Now, the response, super open-ended, go wherever you want. With the summary, it doesn't have to be a point-by-point explanation of the whole thing. Give me the most important things, right? So this is not something that you can do in a formulaic fashion. You just need to think with it. All right. If you got any questions, as usual, feel free to ask on the blog or the Discord. And good luck. Wish me luck as I catch up on the grading.